And let's go to the panels page. I'm going to use coffee to jump over there. You see there's many options here, but we want to go to admin/structure/panels. Now, if we had enabled panels without Page Manager, we wouldn't have this option to manage pages. This allows us to override various pages that currently exist in Drupal and use panels instead of the default. So we want the node template. So we're going to click Enable. And what we're looking at here is a list of configuration for Page Manager. Again, these are pages that we can use to override existing pages or sets of pages in the current menu system. Right now, the only one that's enabled here is node/ and then node, which is our node view page. We can ignore the other ones right now. These are all disabled, but they can come in handy later if we want to override them. For example, the user view page that allows us to view information about a user, we could set that up to use panels as well. Okay, so I'm going to click Edit next to the node view option. And now we have our configuration page here. Now, to better understand how this works, we can draw from our experience with the context module if you've worked through those videos already. In the context module, we create a context, and the context contains two parts. It contains a set of conditions that need to be met in order for the context to apply, and then a set of reactions, which in our case was simply displaying boxes in particular areas of the page. In panels, the structure is very similar. But instead of creating a new context, we create a new variant. It's just a different word for the same thing. So let's begin by clicking this Add New Variant link. For the title, we'll put Review Node Type Page. For variant type, we're going to leave it Panel. Now, right now we're working within the Page Manager toolset. Again, Page Manager is a separate module from Panels. But Panels is just one thing that we can use in Page Manager to override a particular menu item. If we click here, you can see we also have the option of using an HTTP response code, which is normally used to redirect to another location. So we're just going to use panel, but I just want to explain why this is an option here. We're not within the panels module for this particular part of the configuration process. We're in Page Manager. These two options here will allow us to fill out a couple of forms that we can fill out later, but if we check it now, it will become part of this Add Variant wizard. To keep it simple for now, we're going to skip that part and click Create Variant. Here we can choose a layout. Now, if you already watched the videos on the Display Suite module, we had a similar configuration option for laying out a node type. We have a set of categories that our layouts belong in. We can have 1 column, 2 columns, or 3 columns. Or we can use this Builder option. Let's leave it at the Builder option for now. We can always change it later. And in fact, we're actually going to create our own custom layout later, which is something that we can do with panels, but not with Display Suite. I'm going to click Continue. And here we have a set of options. We're going to leave these all at the defaults, but I'll explain them briefly. So we have our administrative title, which is just what displays in the side that allows us to identify it. We have the ability to disable Drupal blocks and regions. Now, this only works in particular themes. It doesn't work particularly well in the Bartik theme, which is Drupal's default and the one that we're using now. But it can be useful if we want to override the entire page with something that's in our panel. Now, we'll talk about this more later, but a panel only affects the content area of the page. It doesn't affect any other region on the site, and that can be a limitation. But again, I'll come back to that later when it's more in context. We can remove certain body classes. These two options here have to do more with theming than it does with our particular goals. So we can remove body CSS classes or add body CSS classes in order to trigger certain styles or remove the triggers. And I'm going to scroll down here. We only have one renderer option, so we'll leave that there. We can pick a CSS ID to apply to the page, again, so we can apply certain styles, or we can add our styles directly in here in the CSS code block. Again, because we're not dealing with styles so much, we can skip this part and click Continue.